And now, coming to you from the Pensado Media Center, powered by Westlake Pro.
Studio Without Walls. Our guest will share that and his amazing pedigree. Pensado Awards 3, that boy's on fire. We're excited about it. The Blackbird Foundational Series, we've got winners today we're going to announce. Dave's got an ITL from our friends. Let's get it on. You're at the place. It's Pensado's place.
Yeah.
What's up, man?
Hey everybody, thanks for coming by today. We got a lot of good things happening and many things to talk to you about today. It's that time of year, right?
Yeah,
amigo?
we're in the giddy phase, right? We just got to ride the horse all the way through.
When you leave here, your day is...
Woo! It's worth it at the end, but on the way, it's a little bit testing.
Can't thank you enough for all the hard effort and work you put into this.
The whole team's doing good. And what we're talking about is it's our favorite time of the week because we're back with you. Hey, gang. How are you? It is great to see you. Thank you for your likes and subscribes.
Of course.
And also thank you for supporting these folks. Vintage King, the Blackbird Academy, Avid, Lander, DTS, Recording Connection, Fab Factory opening up very soon, and Isotope. They make a lot of things possible, including this show, and we get to come to you because of their support.
Come to you free because of their support.
Come to you free because of their support. And as we alluded to, the Pensado Awards 3 is shaping up maybe to be our most special yet for a number of reasons. Dates, August 20th on the Sony Movie Lot, Culver City, California. We've already told you about some killer performers who are signing up. Rock guitar god Phil X, he's in. We told you about Samantha Maloney, drummer with Motley Crue, Ann Hull, and Vice President of A&R. Not only gorgeous, but absolutely super cool. One of the hosts, Chris Lord-Alge, is the Pensado Giant Award designee, and Chris has promised us that he's going to have some very special surprises, and Chris's friends are likely to be very special.
Chris might take the whole show over. We got to be careful with Chris.
He very well may. He very well may.
He does such a great job.
You know that Gavin Lurson is a host, and DJ Ali is a host from Kendrick Lamar's camp. It's going to be really good. One of the most important things is our pro committee. And we're happy to announce that today. These are the really illustrious guys who absolutely vote on the nominees and give us commentary. You can see them scrolling right here. These are literally some of the best in pro audio. Names like Manny American, Greg Wells, Ryan Hewitt, Candace Stewart, Ed Cherney, DJ Is, Josh Goodwin, Luca Predalisi, Tony Maserati, Joe Barisi, and it goes on and on. There's about 55 of them, and we actually had to stop it because so many people wanted to attend. I wanted to be part of the pro committee, and they will also be in attendance. How does the night go? A reception and drinks beforehand, get you oiled up, get you ready. Then we'll call you to the big show in the park under the stars where it's just going to be a ball. And then we party and chill in the Into the Lair Lounge afterwards. Ladies and gents, you know what you do. Put on your rock star finery, come out, let your hair down. It is not a great night unless the ladies attend, please. Ladies in audio are very important, so please help us make it great. This is a night to celebrate. Let's make this really simple for you. You guys get there, Dave and I will drive. It's just that simple. It's the annual Big Night in Audio. It's designed especially for you, so do not delay. It's $50, pretty cheap, probably the cheapest ticket to an award show you'll find. Go to pensadoawards.com. The info is right there on the night, hotels, performers, hosts, award categories, pro committee, times, and you can sign up, get everything done in one little place. Here's a tip, an important tip. Being early will likely get you better seats. Let's say that again. Being early will likely get you better seats. We recommend doing this ASAP. I can tell you, because I see them, that over 300 VIPs have already signed up to come, which is probably larger and faster than we've ever had. So you get a chance to hang with your heroes. You get a chance to see what they do. You know we're going to have some special moments. It's going to be very cool. So we'll see you there. We thank you for your support. Don't miss. It's going to be a big one. Right?
100%.
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
I don't know where I was, but I wasn't here, was I?
Well, you were just
I'm thinking about, you know, we live in our little caves, and it's so hard to see each other these days because there's not as many big studios. And of course, the award show, in my opinion, is amazing. But one of the most fun things about it one of the funner things is
the hang. It's the hang.
Seeing people you haven't seen in a while.
Yeah.
Going up to somebody you barely know and telling them you enjoyed their work.
Yeah, and the fact that what I really like is our pro community, along with our enthusiasts, our pro communities want to hang with the enthusiasts. Yeah. Like they don't separate themselves out, and it just turns into this big collegial thing, which is really cool.
It really is great. We ought to just have a hang night, not with no award show.
Yeah, just come hang.
Do that in the winter or something.
What? I will be giving you Dave's address. We'll head out there in a couple days.
Drop on by.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's meet the healing Hungarian with the new hot hoopty. He goes by the name of
Hoopty.
I was stretching for a word about a car that starts with an H. That goes back to the 60s and is specifically urban.
I don't think anybody on our staff knows who Sir Mix-a-Lot is.
Leandro does.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, Leandro does. Cam may, but a couple of them know Hoopty. So, anyways, Mr. Hungarian, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. Yourself?
You're driving around in your new car?
I love it.
Yeah, I bet you do.
What color is it, Chungo?
It's white.
White.
Cool.
And then when he showed it to me, he was dressed to match the car.
Oh, you're a Chungo.
It was absolutely. He was very proud of it.
You turned Chungo into the picture of sartorial perfection.
Well, we work on it together. It's a little bit of work, but we work hard on it. So anyways, you're healing?
Yeah, I'm pretty much all back.
Okay, good for you.
No more crutches. I can't do it anymore.
So a couple things. One is can you feel the whole noose, Pensado Wars noose tightening? The more it tightens, the more you're at my house.
I know.
Not the noose Herb put on your neck. That's not what he's talking about. The other one.
The other one.
They're all tight.
Yeah, it's coming.
Pressure's
the Blackbird Foundational Series, because you work so much on the Strive thing, it's been interesting. There's been such a good response to it. We know that this is the fundamental series for those people starting out, and Blackbird will do other series moving on that are specific on different techniques and different, musical instruments and other kinds of things. But this is a really great starting place. So as a student, a just former student, if you didn't have the opportunity to learn, would this foundational sort of fundamental series be a good starting place for you think?
Oh, 100%. I mean, the series gives you everything you need to know that you would learn in audio school, except you can do it from the comfort of your own home. Maybe you can't go to school for some reason, so you can grab this series and learn almost all of the fundamentals that you need, and you can apply those to working in studios or wherever you need to. It's a great series.
100%. You can't build a house on sand or weak foundation. If you don't have a strong foundation, everything else you learn in audio is going to crumble at some point in time.
That's a really good point. So why don't I do this? Let's tell them about what's going on, and then you've got some winners over there?
Got some really good winners.
All right, so let me tell you about the contest. So the details of the contest are as follows. There are weekly winners for the next 3 weeks, a grand prize winner at the end, and here's how it works. You enter your email right here. See that right below me? Enter the info, and you're eligible for both. Weekly guys, here's what you get. You get the online series. You get Blackbird drum sample package for SSD and trigger. You get a year-long subscription to Groove 3 and a gift card to use in whichever way you want. What is the grand prize? The grand prize winner will get all that, plus a flyaway to Nashville in October, VIP access to Gear Expo Nashville, which is going to be a ball. That happens after the Pensado Awards, and there's always a big turnout there. You'll have a quick guest slot on Pensado's Place, and your own private tour of the legendary Blackbird studio by the one and only John McBride. You want to take that tour.
Absolutely.
He gives it like no other person gives a tour, right?
Oh.
It's a really special time. So enter that email. We're going to make sure that each week we get some winners. We get the grand prize winners. And let's announce this week's winners. Chongor, who do you have?
For this week, we have Antonio Gibson and Gregory McPhee.
Oh, let's give a round of applause. Antonio and Gregory, congratulations. Can you feel your career lifting off? You're going to get that stuff, and now you're on your way to audio greatness. That's really cool. Chongor, great. We're going to get this Pensado Awards stuff ready. We'll announce some more winners next week. And DP, you got an ITL for us?
One of the things I enjoyed doing with the Into the Layers is going to Groove 3 and showing our audience something that's done a little different way than I would do it, bring a different perspective. So check this one out.
In this session, we're going to take a live drum kit that has some room in it, and we're going to remove that room using the Transient Shaper. Now, this is a really cool use of it. I'm going to use it in multiband mode, and what Transient Shaper allows us to do is to get into different parts of the signal by using the multiband frequency divisions and then shaping each part of the sound so that it's just as we'd like it to be. So let's play this drum loop. I've got, see, live drum loop that was played live, and you'll hear that. So as you can hear it's a nice sound, but the cymbals are quite washy, the snare's a little laid back, and so is the kick drum. We want to go into each one of those. Now, you couldn't do it using just the regular Transient Shaper, so you need to come left here to multiband. Then we have 3 parts now to the Transient Shaper. If we hit this button here, we could see where the divisions are: 20 to 120, 120 to 2K, and then 2K and up. We could solo those to hear how they work and how the divisions are working audibly. We can then bypass them as well once we've got something going on to hear how it sounds with and without that. And so let's listen to it, and let's start to have a listen down at the bottom end. There's a kick drum. I'm going to pull that up a bit further. There's a bit of clicking there, you can hear it. So what I want to do as well is I've got my module gain switched on. I'm going to just pull that down a bit. And here we go. Now what I'm going to do is push the attack up and pull the sustain down just to tighten up that kick drum. Yeah, I like that. Let's go to the snare now. You can hear now the snare's much tighter. There's the original. Still a lot of bottom snare in there, a lot of room in there, being picked up by the kick drum and the ambient mics. Let's go to the top now. You can hear those cymbals coming forward. You take them back. And again, subtle is good. Take that kick down a bit more. And I'm going to bring this one up, and I'm going to slide this up to change the frequency. Just going to solo that. 2.6. Let's bypass that. See lots of room in there now. Much tighter. Now the next thing I'm going to do is a couple of other things. I'm going to go to my graph here, and I want my EQ to come after my Transient Shaper. If I put my EQ in before my Transient Shaper, then any EQing I was doing would be affected by the Transient Shaper. What I want to do first is fix the sound and then re-EQ it. So I'm going to come across and pull that here. So it's beyond the Transient Shaper, so the signal goes into the Transient Shaper first. We do all of our treatment, and then we go to the EQ to do some additional changes. Now, although it doesn't change here, it actually has changed in the signal path. So we come to Equalizer now. And we're just going to pull down the top end slightly and just boost the bottom end. So we're going to get number 2 here. We plus here, and we can see that number 2 is a bell at 100 hertz. That's about where I want it. I'm going to narrow that a bit, just a slight thud in there. And another trick you can do is you hold down the Alt key, you can then examine the frequency spectrum and solo it so you can hear what you're actually affecting. So if I play that now, that's what I'm looking for. It's about 85 hertz. Not too much. I like that. It's a good thud there now, just a bit less. Top end, I'm just going to clean up a bit. I'm going to use the analog high shelf, which is here, number 8. So I don't need 6, and I don't need 1. I don't need 4. I'm just going to pick that up here. Just narrow that a bit again. I'm going to come to Dynamics 1 now. And just give this a tiny bit of compression, about 2 to 1. Just to iron out any of the peaks. Just listen to the whole of that. Now we're going to bypass the whole thing now. There's the original. So there we are. Now what you could do then is of course add reverb back in, but at least you'll have control of the reverb. But what we've done here is got it all under control. We can now do what we want to do with the sound that we have. So there we are. We've used the transient shaper and the equalizer and the dynamics to completely reshape a sound from a live drum kit. Thanks for watching.
Our guest was born into this and has really carved out his own path. He'll explain Studio Without Walls, but you got to just hear this amazing pedigree that a lot of us, a lot of you grew up on. Please welcome to the desk. We are pleased to have the one, the only, Nathaniel Kunkel. How are you, man?
Really good. Thank you for
Good
having
to see
me.
you. It's a pleasure to have you. That just marinate on that last name. That's all you have to do is go Kunkel, right?
Yeah, his
Very
dad's
cool.
amazing.
Fire away, sir.
Yeah,
And mom.
I just figured out where I went wrong. I thought you said studios without floors. It's walls.
It's
That's
without
where
walls.
I screwed
Yeah,
up.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, what a great idea. What a great concept. It feels to me like that's the future. Definitely the present. Being able to go to the client, being able to, there's a question in there somewhere.
Well, explain Studio Without Walls. What is it?
Well, the idea behind it was it came out of back in the day we were taking lots of gear to studios. You know, you find the pieces of gear you like the most.
Yeah.
I was carrying around a lot of GML gear because I got really used to working with George, and so I got to the point where I was carrying around a couple of racks of equipment, and actually it was my assistant Wes Seidman at the time. He goes, you know, if we just got a console, we'd have a studio. And so I got a console, and we sort of put together this portable rig. I think the thing that made it a little bit different than some of the other things that were happening was I really looked at the topology of how things connected, because being able to scale what the equipment package was that I took to different people's ended up being houses most of the time. You know, a lot of times it was studios, but a lot of times it was
the forerunner of the project studio.
It was, you work with an artist that goes, I really feel more comfortable singing at home. I wish I could sing at home, and we go, we can.
Yeah.
I ended up mixing a Robin Williams record in the suite at the Clift Hotel
no
in San
joke.
Francisco.
How cool
Yeah,
is that?
he wanted to be near home. So,
Right.
so with Studio Without Walls, one of the things that we worked on was exactly how we were going to connectorize things. It was, bidirectional 16-channel EDACs. I inverted.
Did you say connectorize?
Yes.
Is that a word?
It is today.
It uses, as Billy Williams would say, it uses letters and it has a meaning.
And you said it so strongly that.
No, I like that word.
the
I didn't mean
word
to
of
cut
the
you
day.
off, but I learned a new word.
Go
In any
back.
case, I tried to figure out a way where, if I just wanted to plug a rack into a rack, or I wanted to plug a rack into a patch bay, I could, use either end of the same connectorizing cables.
And you know what? He connectorized right back to the story after you interrupted. I had a question for you. So monitoring, how do you adjust when you go in
that was my question.
and sort of, because obviously that's a pretty key thing. So how did you adjust when you went into different environments?
At the time that Studio Without Walls really took off, I was using the JBL LSR series speakers, so the 6328s and then the 6312 subwoofer. So it was bass managed, and isolating all the low frequency to the subwoofer with the room mode correction capabilities that are within that system allowed me to get that dialed in. But in the end, to be honest with you, it was pretty awful most of the time.
Right.
But
The monitoring was awful.
The monitoring was awful, but I can find a plug-in to fix some resonance in the room. What I don't have a plug-in for is my singer feels comfortable.
Right.
So I'll always
Great point.
forego some technical perfection within my recording environment if what I get is the performance that I need.
Let's be clear here. Like you've done some big records this way over the I remember hearing about this like in 08, 07. Is that when you started?
Studio Without Walls was incorporated in 2001.
Wow. Wow.
So you got a lot of experience. And you're not just dragging around a laptop. You're carrying a lot of gear when needed, right?
When needed. Yeah. Although, it does, it slims down quite a bit. When I did the James Taylor and Carole King Troubadour show, one of the requirements of that was it has to fit up that staircase, and it was like, okay, that clearly delineates a different type of package than I normally would take for something of that caliber. So you just work it out.
How did larger clients, established brands, got records coming that are important? How did they adjust? Was part of it because they trusted you and had some experience with you, or they just got in and took a leap of faith? Because some folks who've been recording for a while have very specific ways they want to record. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think the solution was more born out of that being the way they wanted to record. I mean, I love being in large format recording studios. I'm really comfortable there. That's where we cut our teeth. So, if they are more comfortable being in a large studio, that's great for me. I mean, really, the idea is just to have Studio Without Walls service whatever the requirements are of my client, not to delineate a workflow for them.
Right. That's amazing.
Do you ever have a usage, and if you do, how would you use headphones in that type of situation? And what headphones are you using?
I'm using Audio-Technica ATH M50s.
Wow.
They're my favorite headphone.
We like those too.
Yeah, I just love them. And I've been doing also a lot of binaural mixing, and so they're really comfortable for me to have on for a long period of time.
Two heads are better than one.
Indeed.
Yeah. There was a place to go. I watched you sidestep it like an IED. Well done. Well done.
I'm here for you.
Absolutely, yes, you are.
But headphones, actually, to further dive into that, headphones play a large role, mainly because we are often in the same room. I'm often in the same room with the singer. Yeah. So we'll go back and forth between monitors and headphones, and I carry around an Aviom system. Although, to be honest, most of the clients I work with want me to give them a stereo mix that I curate.
So clearly, you drive a truck.
No, I have a stunningly good cartage company.
Oh, there you go. Even better. Even better. Yeah, that's important.
You tend to like to monitor a little bit on the soft side. Is that an asset when you're in a strange room? Does the level that you monitor at affect you in a negative and positive way?
It's something I haven't really thought about too much. It
must be a good time.
Yeah, let's delve in. I like that plan. I tend not to listen too loud. I do listen loud sometimes, but very rarely when I'm recording. I listen loud when I'm mixing, mainly because it's the easiest way for me to gauge low frequency excitement. Yeah. It's just hard to balance, really figure out how a kick drum and a bass are going to come together without a little bit of SPL. Right. But I think that, working with George Massenburg for as long as I did, we would listen relatively loud once in a while, but...
George listens loud?
Every once in a while.
Oh, that's cool.
But we did a lot of balancing soft, and so I really curated my listening skills, listening at lower levels. It's,
You were with George like 10 years.
Yes, sir.
That must have been an amazing experience. I mean, the man is like, if there was a Renaissance man, George would be it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we were discussing earlier about how he invented the parametric equalizer, and that's kind of a major tool that we use.
Invented the moving fader as well.
Wow, that's amazing. Now that you've put in the 10 years in hindsight, because oftentimes it's hard for us to sort of know what we're at. We're in the middle of it, and you get a chance to have some reflection and to get some perspective. What was the takeaway from those 10 years with George?
Listen.
Gotcha.
Really listen. There'd be times when, as I worked with him more and more, he would ask me to take on more and more responsibility for the engineering, the engineering tasks that were happening. And there'd be times when I'd go out and place a microphone, and he'd sit and listen, and he'd go, "No, that's not good." And I'd go, "What's wrong with it?" And he'd grab me and put me in the middle of speakers. He goes, "Listen to that. Does that sound right to you?"
Oops, there you go.
What does that sound like?
Yeah.
It sounds like this. Exactly right. go make it not sound like that. So George is George is an unbelievable teacher, not in the way you would normally think of it in terms of saying do this, do this, do this. He very rarely would use numbers or an exact example of how to get at a certain solution. He would give me the skills to go find the answers on my own, and then usually give me problems that we hadn't sorted out yet, and hope that I would apply the skills that he had given me to sort of figure out what the right solution is.
Best teachers teach you to fish, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to give you the fish, and you
100%.
can always take those skills and go with it, and then you take. I mean, when you have the pedigree that you have, a lot of people don't understand. Nathaniel's parents were Russ Kunkel and Leah Kunkel, and they both made significant music marks in their own right, in their own way, individually and collectively. And a lot of times people don't understand is that when you're born into that can either be a good thing, an advantage. Sometimes for other people it's pressure. You're trying to live up to stuff. How was the process for you? Was it just amazing stuff you were born into and it just started to seep into your subconscious and you never thought about it? I know folks who've never thought about their pedigree and just operated with what they were. What was your journey?
Yeah, I wasn't very aware of. I wasn't very aware.
Because you wanted to do
of it.
lights.
I wanted exactly right. I was a big fan of Alan Owens, who did all the lights with Shoko.
Amazing.
And
Shoko was amazing.
and they used to when I was younger and I'd go on the road with my dad, they would collect the gels for me, and I would go home and put together little lighting.
Oh,
rigs
did you really?
With dimmers that you used to buy those little dimmers for the lamps. And so I'd buy like 6 of those and like put together little lighting rigs.
Your little light show?
It wasn't, and I played drums my whole life. And my dad gave me a couple lessons, but never really pushed me too much. But I was always interested in that.
Sure.
It wasn't until I was, I guess I was about 12 or 13, and I walked into a studio. I walked into the Complex,
Oh, wow.
and George was there sitting at. It was the first time I met George, and he was sitting at the console that he had built, a GML or a Nova Sound Research 7900 series, if I remember correctly,
Wow, I
and
didn't even remember that.
running an ATR 124 remote and an Eco synchronizer, and I just took one look and went, that is what I want to do.
I want to
do that, and so it wasn't until then that I knew that I wanted to sort of be in the music industry. That was when that really blossomed for me. I definitely ran into some pushback from other people in my peer group that felt that the success, if I was having any, what could be deemed a success, sort of came from the relationships
You're
that
entitled.
exactly. And I think that it was difficult for a short period of time, but in the end, you just, if you're really into what you do, you're too busy thinking about what your craft is to worry about what other people think about.
And it's always a
you got there.
phase. There's a phase you go through that. I had experienced it because my dad was an athlete and a well-known athlete. And so there's this presumption. And I just don't spend much time thinking about the presumption. I got stuff to do. You know what I mean? It's just my own kind of thing. But I think one of the greats, and Dave's mom taught guitar, and I know that in Dave's, what you took from that are things that you could carry forward. And so the beauty of this kind of thing, which can happen, by the way, with any parent, it doesn't have to be a parent who is successful. You can take good stuff from anybody and help it form your foundation to move forward. And I always find it fun then to look back and say, God, let me hold my thing up and see how it looks up against Pops or Mom or whatever, and kind of, how am I doing? I'm doing okay. So do me a favor when you talk to your folks, just tell them that 2 guys that you talked to today were heavily influenced and really respected and liked their work.
I certainly will. Thank you so
Absolutely
much.
amazing.
And there's another guy to talk to. Another person, Ed Cherney, was important. The way you described Ed was you learned how to listen through Ed in terms of finding those special moments and the way he works. Can you describe how that influenced you and how you work now? Because you work similar ways.
Yeah, I mean, I learned so much from Ed just about vibe.
Yeah, man.
And I remember one time, I don't know, the things that we learn are so much more just about sort of little vignette experiences that you have with people, and you sort of and you know what you pull from those situations are not necessarily what you think might be the most important thing happening right then. But I remember when Ed was mixing. He was mixing a record at Brooklyn Sound. Is that studio still open? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
And
I haven't heard
and
the
he
name
was
in a
sitting
while.
there listening, and he would like just push up the drums and like the B3, and he would listen to it all the way through, and then he'd pull the B3 down and he'd put the bass up and listen to it all the way through, and he would kind of put up different versions of the song. And I remember asking him about it. He goes, well, sometimes there's magic moments that happen between instruments, and if you've got it all on at the same time, you don't hear that. And so
It's amazing.
I like to give myself a moment to really see what sort of things are happening between the musicians, especially when you're working on a record that has real musicians playing on it, right? Because musicians respond to each other in the most subtle ways when they're playing live, and much in the way that if all you're doing is programming music,
Right.
you spend a huge amount of time trying to recreate some of that magic. If it just happens in front of you when you're listening to all of it, it's just as difficult sometimes to hear it when it happens and you weren't part of what that creation was.
Well, if you ever want to see an example of that, just go to a session in Nashville and watch that silent communication that goes on between those cats, man. And then they'll break for lunch and come back and get it right back.
Yeah,
It's
they
pretty
got the
amazing.
best players in the world in there.
It's really amazing. You're heading down there soon, correct?
I am. I'm going to go down there and look at some studios.
Oh, cool. What kind of stuff are you working on these days?
Well, I just got back from Europe. I was in Europe for 10 weeks
nice.
doing sound design and mixing front of house for Hans Zimmer's tour.
Cool.
Which was an enormous amount of fun.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great music and great people and really great venues,
Right.
good audiences. It was a pretty special time.
Oh, very cool.
So just did a bit of that, and I also do a bunch of work with Dolby. I do product management for Dolby, so I've been
cool.
focusing on some of that coming back to town.
Very cool.
And also getting ready to mix this DVD, Blu-ray, theatrical version of Hans's show that we shot when we were in Prague.
Oh, nice.
Your approach to 5/1 is, speaking of 5/1, your approach is kind of unique, and I like your approach. Tell me about how you keep it musical and how you keep the process from not being the star, but let the song still be the star. Because sometimes when too many things are going on behind me, it distracts me from the song itself.
Right.
And you seem to have mastered it in a musical way.
You're very kind. Don't know if that's true, but I appreciate
No, it's
appreciate
true.
the sentiment.
Take the credit. He doesn't give very much.
I think you really hit the nail on the head. You got to let the song speak to you. It's, I think whether you're mixing stereo or you're mixing in surround, it's the same thing that feeds that decision-making process, which is, you're listening to a song and you hear that little voice go, the kick drum needs to be louder. Once you start playing more with the surround medium, that voice will go, that'd be kind of cool if it was a little farther out to the side.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily have to think of surround as, it's either here or it's there. I mean, a lot of times it's just maybe pulling things out a little bit wider. One of the things that I do is Lyle Lovett, when I record his guitar, that's an MS microphone on his guitar.
No joke.
Yeah, and so I stole it from George. He did it with a C24, and so the left side of the microphone is facing up, and the right side of the microphone is facing down. But if I'm mixing in 5/1, or really in this case 5/1 or in 7/1, works great in 7/1 as well. I'll actually do the MS decoding in the room. I won't electrically sum that and make that MS into a stereo until it hits the room. So I'll have the side in and out of phase and the left and the right, and I'll put the middle down the middle speaker, so I don't have any electrical summing of that. A lot of times I'll also do left and right in the side, left and right of the MS and the side speakers. The mono of the MS, phantom, center in the front, left, right, and Lyle's vocal in the center, because then I have no electrical summing of all of the microphones that are in front of him, which can be a bit of a phase nightmare, but not when they're able to acoustically sum. So letting the mix kind of speak to you and say, you know, maybe I want to move this out. Sometimes I will do something like put a vocal behind you if it's a duet or something like that.
Please,
but
please tell
normally,
me you don't put like the reverb behind me. You don't do that, do you?
I use multi-channel reverbs.
But not like the voices here and then the reverbs behind me. You don't do that, please.
You know,
This could be
I
the
can't
interview.
lie. I
You
can't
can,
lie.
but it's okay.
I sometimes will, but you know what I find myself putting in the surrounds more are
What?
delays.
Okay.
I'll take a guitar and I'll delay it.
I want our audience to know this. You've got to make a decision. Put yourself in Nathaniel's position. You've got to make a decision. You've got a vocal, you've got a guitar part, and you normally would see it in the front speakers and hear it in the front speakers. Now you've got to decide what you put behind you. When I've done 5/1, it's a tough decision. I mean, I'm teasing you, but it's really hard to figure out what goes behind you, because is the theory you're trying to recreate a real space, or you're trying to create an interesting artificial space? So just the decision to throw something in the rear speakers is a really difficult decision to make. And you do it well. That's why I'm kind of teasing you, because I want to figure out if I'm ever lucky to do another 5/1, how would I approach that?
But the song is the master.
Well, yeah, I think it's a moving target. The context of your comment seems to be more focused on an instrument sort of solely coming from a location other than your front speakers. But for instance, one of the things that I do a lot is I'll put a vocal in the center channel and in the left and the right surrounds, because I want to bring it forward into the room.
Great idea.
Right? So trying to think of those as locations where you can pull components of what's happening in the film.
Right.
You know, I mean, I think there's a in film mixing, you never want to have discrete elements, you know, for the most part,
Right.
coming from the surrounds, unless there's a real reason for
Right.
it. Because what you don't want is you don't want people to turn their head away from the screen. And I think that there's some wisdom in that, you know, in the optic of mixing a piece of music as well, in that you have a focus that's sort of forward facing. But if you think about the surround speakers or the wide front left right speakers when you're talking about like an Atmos cinematic environment, it's really just a way of kind of pulling the stuff around you, but really just trying to make it more compelling. I mean, one of the other things that I really like about mixing in surround is when you're mixing a stereo mix, especially if you need to get level elevated, you need to kind of carve out space in different instruments to get them to glue, and I'm able to, in a surround mix, say, well, it's kind of hard for me to fit that into the front. No problem. I'll put it somewhere else. So a lot of times what will speak to me in terms of a panning decision is how well does that fit? You know, because sometimes you'll have an instrument in the piece of music that's very musically important, but texturally I'd have to really carve up another sound that I already really like to make that fit into the same place. And having the ability to move it out. And to that end, sometimes I'll go, you know, I get to this particular guitar after I've already filled up the front. So I go, okay, well, that won't fit in the front. Let me find another place I can move it. And then I'll go, no, that needs to be in the front. But this other thing that I already placed in the front, that doesn't need to be there as much as this one does. And so they'll change. But I find myself EQing and compressing a lot less in surround.
Oh, good.
I mean, because the way you describe the process, it's almost opportunities. Like, let me identify this, and I can either pull a vocal to the front, or I can do something, and those are options to make something better. So when you look at it that way, as opposed to being a problematic decision, it's like, wait, there's a chance I can enhance something and move forward. Does that make sense?
100%. Do you ever find yourself? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, okay.
Yeah, that was a question he needs to
No,
answer.
it's just a statement of fact.
Do you ever find yourself on the LFE side trying to get more defined low end, or are you happy with that part of the process?
Wow,
We're going down a oft-visited path, huh?
it is.
I had a hard time kind of getting my low frequencies to have an originating point.
Right.
And they kind of washed a little bit, and And if you think about two speakers, and then in between them is the mono. Well, there's no speaker in the middle, so it's a phantom mono. It doesn't exist in nature. It's the combination of this speaker and this speaker having equal amounts of energy coming out. But then you've got this LFE and you got a center channel speaker.
So
that always confused me.
So I think there's a couple of ways to look at it. One of the ways that I think is really helpful to look at it is to look at your speaker configuration from the recommended practices for DVD audio and SACD surround. And the specification there is 5 identical full range channels with an LFE. So the idea behind a classic 5.1 music mix is that all of your channels are full range. If you've got 5 full range channels, and you really don't need to use your LFE because you've got enough horsepower in your LCR and your surrounds to get it done. Now, a lot of times we're mixing on near fields or smaller speakers, especially if you're not in an enormous room. I mean, a large room with mains as your surround configuration are rare. But you do need to have what's going to those channels be able to be monitored full range, which is why you'll see a lot of mixers using bass managed systems. So I would mix. I actually very rarely would use the LFE channel.
It's more for like explosions and
well,
bombs.
LFE actually is low frequency effect. The whole reason why an LFE channel exists in the film world is that since it's so much less efficient, the lower, audio is less efficient, the lower your frequency. When you have an explosion that needs to compete with higher level audio that's mid-range and high frequency information, you need to have another place to put it. So the idea of an LFE channel is I'm out of low frequency headroom in my screen channels. I need something else to give me some more low frequency reinforcement. So I would reach for an LFE channel when it wouldn't come out of my 5 channels. But like I said, my 5 channels were running full range. And so, for instance, when I was mixing on the LSRs, I would mix actually with 3 subwoofers. I'd mix with 2 subwoofers in the front, one doing the left and the LFE, and another one doing the right and the center bass management, and another one in the rears, because I wanted them to be full range channels. But very little was going to the LFE channel.
The Emmy that you won for the Sting concert, was that a 5.1 mix?
Yeah, it was.
So you're pretty good at it, huh?
I leave that to you.
No, I said you were great. And let me just be real clear. I found it more interesting to put you on the spot than to just say, dude, you do it really well. And it sounds so musical to me when you do it. And then isn't that the point, Tell me a little bit about working with B.B. King. I mean, it was his 80th birthday. You won a Grammy for the record.
Wow.
That had to be a special moment, right?
It was really a special moment.
I love B.B.
Wow.
Yeah, BB was fantastic. And
at 80, he was still good.
He was still good. He was always good.
Yeah.
He's a gentleman, isn't he?
He was always a gentleman. He's a really kind man, and we had a lot of fun in the studio. He one of my jobs, in addition to engineering, that was I set up Lucille and tuned it and got his guitar tone every day.
Did he use any pedals?
No.
Did he go straight into his twin?
He wasn't even a twin sometimes, so he didn't care what amp we used.
Really?
Yeah.
He always sounded like BB.
Sometimes we used a lab. It didn't make a difference to him. And so I'd sit down and I'd tune up the guitar, and he'd go play a little. I'm like, I'm not going to play. He said, play a little.
On Lucille?
Yeah. I'd
Oh, man.
play a chord, and he'd go, a little more high end.
Damn.
Play another chord, he goes, that's fine. Put the guitar down, and he'd never touch it again.
That's amazing.
That's
the
it.
greats,
Damn.
their tone is in their fingers. It's
Absolutely
just so
right.
hard to. I don't want to believe that sometimes, but
But it's like Steve. We were talking about Stevie Ray Vaughan
Stevie-
before the show. You could give him a
Yeah.
2x4 with some chicken wire on it. It's
Yeah, he's out
it's
there.
gonna sound like Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Absolutely.
and Lyle Lovett. How did you capture? Because his whole thing is about vibe and timing and feel and groove. How do you get that to come in a microphone and out a TV set?
I don't know about the TV set part. I mean, I've learned so much about making records from Lyle.
You won a Grammy for that?
I have not won a Grammy.
I thought you won a Grammy with him.
No, I have not.
Okay, Grammy committee. He needs to win a Grammy before this airs tomorrow.
Exactly. Trying to call Maureen.
Lyle's won some Grammys on records I've worked on, but I wasn't a part of that. Well deserved.
Yes.
You know, everything we do with Lyle is live. I mean, I think that's one of the things that a lot of people might not know is that you know, those are live vocals. He plays guitar and sings live.
Wow. And
the band plays live, and he feels very strongly about everybody that's going to be on a record being on the floor at the same time, you know. So if that track is going to have horns and background singers and steel and piano and upright bass and him and drums and all, that will all be happening on the floor at the same time.
Wow.
You know, speaking to what we were talking about earlier, you know, he feels that musicians really micro adjust to each other in a way that is just intangible and not recreatable when you're having people do overdubs.
No question.
When you got that many people, the odds of mistake are logarithmically exaggerated. I mean, how many takes do you have to do to get a good one?
The band never makes a mistake, actually, for the most part. It's you know, Lyle is, again, I learned so much from working with him. He surrounds himself with just the best musicians on the planet. You know, like a lot of them come from Nashville. It's you know, Dean Parks and Matt Rawlings and Victor Krauss and
ridiculous.
You know, Paul Franklin and Jerry Douglas and Herb Peterson and you know, I mean, it's you know, Stuart Duncan. It's people where you're not picking the take for when people don't make mistakes. You're picking the take for what was the most absolutely mind-blowing version of it that they did, which is necessary.
Takes that they do, well, if they do 2 or 3 and they kill.
Sometimes it's very few, and the other thing is that you know, you add into that mix that those are all live vocals for Lyle. You know, we're really picking our take for Lyle.
Yeah, exactly.
So those guys need to deliver for every take.
Can I put you on the spot real quick?
No.
I'm glad you agreed. I've been an advocate of a lot of people when a young engineer is starting out having a mobile quality to their rig. Can you tell the audience a little starter rig, minimum rig like a laptop, a mic pre. Give me like about a $10,000 starter kit that people could earn a living with based on your experience.
I'll preface this by saying a huge amount of people are not going to agree with what I say.
No, that's okay.
Bring it.
But if you don't agree with them, just understand the concept. I mean, the gear.
Yeah, I mean, I would try and go. I guess the best way to answer it would be if I had to put a little portable rig together, what would I be taking? You know, I would be. $10,000 evaporates relatively rapidly when you start thinking about a laptop.
Okay, 20.
Okay. You know, you gotta have a good machine. Yeah. I would probably have some sort of external UAD processor because I'm a huge fan of the UAD processors. You know, I would probably go with the Apollo, one of the Apollo UAD interfaces, or this new Focusrite Red 4 Pre that they just came out with, which is Thunderbolt. It has 2 HDXIO connectors on it, and it's got Dante. So you could buy that interface, use it as your Thunderbolt interface. If later on you got Pro Tools, you could do that. You could invest in some Dante mic pre infrastructure, and that would be able to sort of scale throughout. I build a lot of studios as well, and one of the things that I always say to people when they're building a studio, because everyone starts a studio on a budget.
Right.
What I always say to them is, pretend we have no budget. Pretend we have $50 million. We can build anything we want. What does that studio look like? And you construct that with them in a very hypothetical way, but then you make sure that all the things that they're purchasing are ultimately leading to that goal. Because there's nothing worse than, even if you're only going to spend $2,000 or $3,000 on a piece of gear, buying a piece of gear and then 3 years later going, I just never use that anymore,
exactly.
right? That's a real drag. So
from your experience, do you have better luck with, say, a 3-inch woofer, a 4-inch, 5, 6? What size speaker would you say is a solid workhorse speaker, like a little 4-inch speaker maybe?
You know, I think these new JBL 7 series, the 705s and the 708s.
How big are they?
Well, the 705s are small, you know,
wow.
and they're some of the most amazing speakers I've ever heard.
Killer.
Really incredible. Right now they're only a passive speaker, so you need an amplifier with them. I hear rumors that there might be an active one coming out, so that certainly would make that an attractive option.
And don't people spend too much time sweating over mic pre's and mics? A good solid quality. You don't have to use a 1073. You don't have to use a 251. If you got a good mic pre, $100, $150, you're okay. If you've got a $1,000, maybe even less.
You know, it's all.
And by the way, I don't mean to cut you off,
Yeah,
but the misconception is that you need a large diaphragm for vocals, but smaller diaphragms sound better on vocals than large diaphragms. So you're actually hurting yourself when you buy a large diaphragm for vocals.
I think that I think one of the ways to, in terms of the mic pre thing, it's almost hard to build a bad sounding mic pre these days. I mean, the chip technology that's out there, you know, there are so many great microphone preamplifiers. I mean, really anything outside of just the most bargain basement, you know, what's inside a 4-channel mixer, you know, you buy for $100.
Right,
I mean,
right.
you know, once you sort of get out of that scope, if your gain structure is set right, talk about, you know, we were talking about foundations, you know, the Blackbird foundation, you know, that information is so important, because if you understand what your gain structure is, you can get really good performance out of pretty much anything. I mean, I don't think that that's something that I would worry about so much.
Yeah,
you know, for instance, if I had either this Apollo or I had this 4 pre, I would gladly use the microphone preamplifiers in it. They certainly would not be the bottleneck for a quality recording.
Yeah.
And there are so many amazing modern microphones now. Audio-Technica is making some amazing microphones right now. Sanken has this new microphone called the CU51, which is this dual capsule mic. It's one of the best microphones I've ever heard. I mean, really amazing. So there's some great $1,500 microphones out there that would cover a lot of bases.
Sean Gore, you got some questions over there for our guests?
Got some really good questions.
Fire away, sir.
This one, the first one's from Joey Herrera. If you're mixing in Dolby Atmos, what goes in the ceiling speakers, and what's the most obscure sound you've placed in the surrounds?
That you can say publicly.
I don't think there's anything I wouldn't be able to say publicly there.
Certainly not here.
I think that really feeds into the same conversation that Dave and I were having a minute ago. You know, what would be coming from the ceiling? I mean, the idea behind for me anyway, the idea behind an Atmos mix musically, because again, I'm not an effects mixer or a dialogue mixer. I'm working mostly in the music component of what would be an Atmos mix. But things that you would think would want to be coming from the ceiling, like for instance, angelic choirs make a lot of sense to come from the ceiling for me. I know that you and I have had discussions about when things come from the obvious location.
No, I hate songs when they go. And I loved her so much the first time I saw her, the world stopped, and the music stops.
Right.
Or I saw a bee fly by and you're bzzz, and they'll even take time to pan it. It's like, come on, man.
A mono B is just sitting there. That's crazy.
You know.
Sean, go give us another one there.
From Steve Arms, what pieces of knowledge or experience influenced your career the most?
God,
Wow.
that's a whole other show.
Make yourself happy. You know, when I look back at the work that I've done, the records where I really tried to do something that I thought was great, that really satisfied what I thought the record should be, those are the ones that through the optic of history I still listen to and I'm proud of. And the ones where I really tried to just make it into something that someone else wanted it to be, I find that those are much less compelling pieces of art. This is actually something that we've talked about before. You know, that you know, one person's vision is always a bit more compelling than an amalgamation of other ones.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
and I think it's important to be able to listen to the work that you did and and feel like you brought something important to it. You know, although I must admit that happens so rarely for me. Most of the time I listen to work I do and just
Can we ever really accurately judge what we do? I just don't think it's possible.
I was, you know, the funny story about George. So I got a call from Massenburg. I was in my car. This is years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and he said, "How you doing, man?" I said, "I'm okay." He goes, "You sound depressed. What's wrong?" I said, "Well, I just heard this song I did on the radio," and he goes, "Cool." And I went, "Nah,
Not so cool.
it sounded awful." He goes, "So what?" And I went, "Well, you know, I put a lot of work into that, and I'd want it to sound good." And he goes, "Well, you didn't mix it for you. You mixed it for everybody else, and they seem to like it so much that they're putting it on the radio. Get over yourself. It doesn't matter."
Commerce, son. No question.
And there's some truth to that.
Absolutely. I think
A
that's
lot
great.
of truth to that.
One more from him. Loosen up your arm for batter's box there,
ready.
sir. You ready to go? What you got?
We got one from James Hammond. What is your favorite mixing technique that you stumbled on accidentally?
Oh, great question.
Mixing technique that I stumbled on
Pensado's place.
accidentally.
That's a,
Wow.
that's a trip down memory lane.
Probably all of them, really.
Yeah, I'd say, no, everything's been an accident so far. I don't know.
That's good though. That's
Let me think about that for a
Think
second.
about that for a second.
Can I come back to that
We'll
question?
go to batter's
close the
box.
show with
Okay.
that thought.
I'm going to
You
come back
think
to that
about
one.
No
All right,
pressure.
you got your arm loosened up there, son?
Man.
Let's see, no oil. This is you're
No,
good.
man, I'm ready.
Because he comes from a long line of home run hitters. So here you go.
Don't build this up too much.
You ready?
Yes.
Fire away, sir.
This is tailor-made for you. It's a unique, one of a kind.
Okay.
It's not a
Don't
rehash
show your
or
pitch.
anything.
That counts as a balk. You just have to throw.
I know.
All right, here we go.
I'm lying because I'm scaring him.
I know, gotcha.
Room mics,
Needed.
Ah,
drummers,
Awesome.
dad. That was the correct answer. Vocals,
Compression.
7.1.
Better than 5.
Drum samples, like replacement.
Evil.
Ooh.
But I really wants to be a 2-word answer, which is necessary evil.
okay.
okay.
Yeah, you can do that. That's
Okay.
fine.
Dock him for that.
Okay.
Snares,
Black Beauty.
8,200.
Equalization.
The best. Strat or Telly.
Strat.
He's good, Herb. Sample rate.
192.
Can I throw one in?
Yes.
Leland Sklar.
Friend.
Gotcha.
Best beard.
Gotcha.
If your studio caught on fire and you can't save livestock or relatives or loved ones, what one piece of gear would you rescue?
My vintage U67.
I quit.
Yeah, there's not a lot to talk
No,
about.
this
one.
is
Just-
pointless.
'cause
He's-
he was
he's
sort
good.
of,
He's good.
well, he's also Seinfeldian about it.
I
Just-
think when we were in the lounge before the show, and I think he was like mining me for information about this.
So-
I think it was real subtle, but I think he cheated her.
Well, in baseball, it's called scouting.
I think that's the equivalent of taking performance enhancers.
Well, you know, he felt like drum samples were necessarily evil. Maybe this was something he just had to do to prepare for this because his nerves, and he like killed it. So
Well, he killed it.
yeah,
He's real good.
Yeah.
Short answers, fast, timely.
Should we do another round or just let it go for now? For this
I'll
one?
defeat conceit. I'm waiting for his answer on the other thing.
And did you remember what this mixing technique was that you stumbled on accidentally?
No, I haven't.
It's okay.
thought
We can
about
mail
that.
it in. We can add it to the...
This is such an excellent question. You know, I mean,
It's okay. We like... Well, if we can't stump you there, we'll just keep working at it till...
Corner office got a point.
Yeah, corner office, exactly. Sorry, you have time. We can actually answer that later.
I mean, what would constitute the difference between something that's accidental? I mean, I think everything is an
accidental,
accident.
yeah.
You
I
know,
think that's correct.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
You know, I think one. I don't know if it's the best. You know, I remember the first time I accidentally opened up a Sans amp plugin on a snare drum and went, "Oh,
Yeah, there you go.
Damn.
that's pretty cool."
That's pretty
For
cool.
me, I thought I'd invented MS technique, and I thought I had discovered it. And I made the mistake of taking the concept to my mentors. And yeah, that was a disappointing day in my life. They weren't polite.
That's crazy. Well, listen, would you, again, pass along to your parents? Thank you so much. To our good buddy Lisa Roy, who made this happen very quickly. Isn't she wonderful? She is absolutely the best. Come to the Pensado Awards?
Yes, sir.
If you're
Absolutely.
in town.
I will be there.
We'll get you invites. Please bring who you want, and you'll see a whole lot of our friends and audience who come from all over the place, and they will be excited to meet you. And no way did we just scratched the surface. We have more to do. So if we come after you and come back on or do some of our live events, would you do that?
It'd be my honor.
Man, it'd be great. Thank you so much, man. DP, take us home there.
Hey, guys. So I was just thinking about Nathaniel's story when he was a kid hanging out at his dad's shows and how that could possibly give him an advantage and trying to synthesize how that we can ourselves, mere mortals who had normal parents, can get access to the same advantages. And it feels to me like there's really not an advantage in having parents that are that gifted, because the man fell in love with the lights, not his dad's drumming, not the players or everything. And then that kind of hooked him in the process of going to the shows, but very subtly he heard great music. He heard what music should sound like. He heard how, and formulated in his mind, when he finally became a mixer, I guarantee you, it's those experiences that are coming out of the speaker, and you can get those experiences yourself. If you don't have something in your head that's a reference, then listen to a lot of music and follow your heart and listen to music you like. It's not a science project. Don't make it a part of your business. But the more you listen, the more you go to concerts, the more you go out and see what other people are doing and hear music. Just like Bruce Swedien said, the better you're going to be as a mix engineer. You got to have something to say, and that's the way you get it.
Make yourself happy. Say goodbye.
Adios.
See you guys.